16, and I'm sorry I had to cancel on short notice last week, and I fear that I gave you a good, question to think about how the first half all hangs together theologically, and I feel like 1 week is the optimal amount of time to mull over a question, and 2 weeks is the amount of time by which that question is totally forgotten. So we'll go back over that. So we're on page 16, Baruch Shamar. We looked at the first half last week, page 16 in the Siddur Sim Shalom. That's what it's called. Someday this will be online. And we looked at the first half, which we said is a poem, which in thinking about it more, I actually think it is intended to be a poem about what you should think what you're supposed to think heading into Pesukei de Zimra as what is the core Jewish theology of God. That's what I think it's meant to be in its unofficial pre-philosophy kind of way. So it's not systematic, but I think it all hangs together as this is Jewish theology. Is your question pertain to before I go over it or after I go over it, Meyer? The question. Let's ask the question now, and then we'll see if the answer pertains to now or later.
It was actually we spent
because I want to review it first.
Right.
Okay.
Well, this has to do with the gender use here, because I think that's one of the things we discussed a lot last time. Was,
okay.
God being
who?
Who?
Because it's gendered language. Yes.
Right.
Hebrew is a gendered language.
Right, but that also means that there's no gender neutral in the sense
correct. That is correct.
Could also be not a he or a her, but it is
right.
a reference to a non-gendered entity. So I want to suggest that perhaps that could easily also have been the reference, even though obviously the visualization is for a he,
right?
And that is the translations in the he.
Yeah.
That there's no other alternative if
in
you're
Hebrew.
Try to give
right.
Hebrew to give it a gender neutrality.
Right. And yes, and are you aware? Not are you aware, but just to make you all aware, there is some professor and grad student at University of Colorado who are working on degendering Hebrew or trying to find gender-neutral terms. Just so you know. Yeah. I don't know what they have as an alternative to who or he, but I'm certain that it's such a basic word that they must have something. What?
They published a whole list.
They published a whole thing. There you go. It's online. Yeah. Look online for University of Colorado, Hebrew, gender, and it'll all pop up. Yeah.
I also had a question, and this is about the English translation.
Uh-huh.
The English translation alternates between passive and active form of verbs, because first it says glorified, then it says laud, which is more like a command.
Right, and then revere and acclaimed.
Right.
Okay,
so
thanks for asking.
That's not in the Hebrew, and that's just for
correct. It's totally not in the Hebrew. It's actually conceptually kind of, just in terms of literary structure, conceptually kind of the opposite of the Hebrew. Mm-hmm. The Hebrew is, as we said last time, what's called a litany. A litany is a list of short things that has sort of some repetitive structure to it. Like just think of Hu Ya'anenu, that prayer in Slichot. May the God who answered so-and-so, may the God who answered Abraham and Isaac, may God that one answer us. May the God who answered Jacob when he slept, may God answer us. May the God who answered Moses at the Red Sea, may he answer. Hu Ya'anenu. So that's a litany. It's kind of a list of things. It's a kind of piyut, right? It's a kind of liturgical poem. It's just a really structurally simple piyut, okay? And the literary thing about a litany is that you have a word or short phrase that you repeat over and over again, okay? So that's kind of the whole thing that makes it a poem. Thank you for pointing this out, Michael, because I frequently don't look at the English translation. So what our English translator has decided is that literarily, that is, I'm going to guess our translator decided that literarily that is boring. I think that's what our translator thought, okay? And our translator thought it would be much more engaging a prayer if instead of saying the same word over and over again, whatever translation they would use for Baruch, blessed or full of blessing or whatever, if let's translate the word differently every single time. Okay? So it's clearly not a literal translation of the Hebrew, and it clearly has a totally different literary aim. I just want everyone to see how it's totally different, where it's like, oh, I'm going to start each verse, each line with a different word, a parallel to praise or bless, okay, as opposed to the Hebrew, which is dafka with the exact same word. By the way, we know that in Hebrew there are places, like we'll see in the second paragraph, where we're going to have lots of different words for praises. Shirot, brachot, tishbachot, right? I think in Yishtabach we have like 10 or 15 of them. Whatever, right? So there are places in Hebrew where the literary form is let's have lots of synonyms but not the same word, okay? But this is a place, dafka, where it's not. The literary form is, no, let's actually repeat the same word. Baruch shamar v'yalam, Baruch Hu, right? Baruch Hu Breshit. And we talked last time about how there's a version of this which maybe comes from manuscript where it's Baruch Hu and Baruch Shemo as alternating refrains, which still makes it a litany. It's still a litany if you have two different refrains. Okay? So thanks for pointing that out, Michael. But yes, that is totally not the Hebrew. Larry?
A ritual question?
Ritual?
Yeah.
Ritual.
Why do some of us hold only the front two tzitzit and kiss the tzitzit at the end?
Yeah, because it says it in the Shulchan Aruch. It's the short answer. It's a minhag that when you say Baruch Shamar, you hold your front two tzitzit. You stand, first of all, for the whole page. You hold your front two tzitzit, and then you kiss them at the end. And what is the origin of that custom? I don't know. And why is it the front two tzitzit and not all four? I do not know. Okay. But yeah, but it does say it in the Shulchan Aruch. I'm not sure if it's in the Shulchan Aruch or in the Mishnah Brura. I'm not sure where it is in the Halacha. I'd have to go back and look for it. I'll try to do that for next week. But it does say that you are, quote unquote, supposed to do that. So another interesting question is how come that seems to have fallen by the wayside in lots of congregations? Even if you go to an Orthodox shul, there are lots of people who do not hold their front two tzitzit when they say Baruch Shamar. Just look around, anyone who goes to, Meyer, look at, when you go to B'nai David on a Shabbos morning, look around. We're going to give Meyer an assignment. Please, when you come back next Tuesday, God willing, please tell us what percentage of the men with taluses you would guesstimate at B'nai David on Shabbos morning are holding their front two tzitzit during Baruch Shamar. Despite the fact that it's in the Shulchan Aruch, I think it's actually low-ish percentage of people do it. So that's interesting too. How come it's sort of a standard minhag in the printed halachic sources that has mostly fallen, not entirely, but mostly fallen by the way, said Meyer.
You want to see what's written?
No, you tell me. I don't want to see it. You want to tell me.
Oh, it just says, no, this is about what he was saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
The question, it says, the second half of the blessing is a prelude to the biblical verses that follow, mainly from the book of Psalms, but also from the book of Chronicles and Nehemiah.
Yeah.
To emphasize the significance of this declaration, we recite it standing, and at the end, to kiss the two fringes of the talit.
Yeah. So to me, to emphasize the significance of it, is sort of a made-up reason. Like, okay, but why is that more significant than some other passage? That's why I'm wondering. All right, Michael.
My Siddur says to do that.
Yes.
I don't know if it gives a reason or not.
Correct.
Not
Right.
fluent enough with the Hebrew.
Right. So I will hunt down the halachic source for next week. Okay.
But I think it's really interesting
Yeah.
anyways that we create these interactive pieces
Yes.
that we use during the davening.
Yes.
And
There's
there's actions, not just words.
There's a choreography to it.
Yes.
Right. By the way, what's interesting is I believe we don't do that for Yishtabach. Right? So the official envelope for all of Psukei de Zimra, the Psalms of Praise, is Baruch Shamar is the bracha at the beginning, and Yishtabach is the bracha at the end, which makes it one unit, just like Hallel has a bracha at the beginning and a bracha at the end. It's sort of analogous to Hallel, right? So we do that at the beginning, but we don't do that at the end. Why are you bringing me print that's too small for me to read? Okay. What am I going to do?
The very first line is the instruction, but I don't think it.
Yeah, you took your two tzitzios in front of you, and you say it's standing. Yeah.
Kiss them and release them.
And when you finish, you kiss it and release. Yeah.
But the only thing that we do for Yishtabach is we do have a custom of changing the nusach.
Yeah. Right. But we stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Right.
Is there places where we do that envelope where at the beginning and the end
You would do
observe
like
the
a-
same custom?
Well,
Is that why you were
not
bringing it up?
exactly.
Just out of
Let's just
curiosity?
say for those who hold their tzitzit during the Shema, which we think of as universal, but it's actually not universal. Apparently, I think Rav Soloveitchik did not, and the followers of Rav Soloveitchik do not. So it's just a minhag.
What do they do?
they don't hold the
Do we
tzitzit
know
during
why?
Vayomer.
Well,
I can work on why. I don't know. I'll research that too.
they don't kiss at tzitzit?
They do not. They do not hold and kiss the tzitzit during. They do not hold their tzitzit during Kriyat Shema. Larry is shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked. Right? They do not hold the tzitzit during Kriyat Shema. They do not kiss the tzitzit during the third paragraph.
I went to his brother's yeshiva and we did there, so,
Okay. You went to his brother's shiva,
yeshiva.
yeshiva, and you did there, right? So I'll work on that. I'll research that. Okay. So anyway,
Talk to Mickey. Mickey says that he doesn't kiss anything that's inanimate.
okay.
I was gonna say it's pagan.
Right. Right. So,
Really?
so for example, so to answer Terry's question, you could say, we gather the tzitzit before Shema,
Right.
and then we release the tzitzit at a certain point at the end of Shema, or at the beginning of the Amidah, we take steps forward into the presence of the sovereign, and at the end of the Amidah, we take steps back to take our leave of the sovereign. So those are things that are kind of a unit, that we have a choreography that marks the beginning, the intro and the outro of the song, as it were, right? And it's interesting that for this, you do the tzitzit at the beginning, but nothing, as far as I know, for Yishtabach. That's all. Yeah, I didn't mean to make a greater point of it than
No,
that.
but it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay.
But you,
I like
Yep.
you should consider,
choreography.
I'd like you to consider, when we finish with this unit, maybe doing several sessions on not just choreography, but how individuals make the prayer unit or individual prayers more meaningful.
Yes. Okay.
Because
I'll try to do that. Well, the whole course, the whole class is about that, Larry. But I'll try. but I'll try. I'll try.
You're right, but include those
I'll try.
things.
Right. I'm sorry. And by the way, we always use the word choreography about these things in prayer, which is not actually the best possible term. It's kind of how we, I'm going to say, different aspects of, let's just call it embodiment of aspects of our prayer, things that we do, standing, sitting, feet together, feet not together, bowing. How do you bow? When do you bow? How do you hold the tzitzit? When do you kiss the tzitzit? By the way, there are minhagim to kiss your tefillin at certain points during the Shema. So all of these, let's just call it, they're all kind of right, covering your eyes, right, for the first line of Shema. So they're all different aspects of, let's just call it embodiment, right? Or are there things that we do physically? What are the things that we do physically during the davening that have the intention, purpose, goal of embodying or enacting some emotional or psychological or spiritual aspect of the davening, right? Just like, simple concrete thing like, we go up on our toes, I'm kadosh, 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 because we're like the angels, so we're closer to the angels. We put our feet together because the angels, don't have articulated joints in their feet in the midrashic thinking. So that's sort of a simple, basic one, and these are other ones that we're talking about. So Meyer has given us one reason, because of the importance of this passage from Nehemiah. Okay. Okay, we didn't go over the theology. So keep thinking about the theology of the first half, Baruch Shamar, and we will review it and do it next time. And we don't quite have a minion, so we won't say Kaddish. Everyone have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Too.
Terry will send it to me, please.
I will.